Being able to discuss, evaluate or analyse is an increasingly important skill in accounting. I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger in terms of the assessment. What does it actually mean? Well, look, they're slightly different each one, but basically they're bigger questions, 4 to 6 marks. They're usually marked globally, and what that means is there's no set answer. So if I asked you to process a journal transaction, it's clearly got a right answer and a wrong answer. Whereas a discuss, evaluate or analyse, it's more there's so many different ways you could answer it that it's really impossible to give a set list or set answer of this is how it must be answered. So what do you do then? Well, basically what you're doing is getting marks for every insightful point that you provide, and to do that you're going to have to analyse and interpret the information provided. So this can also include your opinion or a summation of the overall case. Now often, if you go and look at past questions, you can see they usually or quite commonly involve the interpretation of graphs or tables. What does it actually mean? So when we talk about discuss and viewpoint 1, viewpoint 2, what we're looking for is for students to have a bit more depth and come at something from multiple viewpoints or angles. So for example, it could be, say, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of something, maybe arguments for or arguments against, the benefits or costs of something, or maybe the strengths and weaknesses. Possible topics, look, there's no set list here, so I've just sort of identified some of the more common ones. It could be to discuss whether assets should be valued at historical cost or agreed value. Should assets be depreciated using straight line or reducing balance? So we can see with those two, that could be an arguments for and against type question. What about should we use control and subsidiary accounts for debtors, creditors and stock? What are the advantages and disadvantages of offering discounts to debtors for prompt payment? And then we've got sort of the final topic of the year is analysis and interpretation. We have a lot of discuss questions to do with that. Can you discuss trends in profitability based on a series of ratios that you've been given? So some point to good performance, some point to bad. Same with efficiency and liquidity and overall performance. These ones on here are all, you might get given a set list of ratios or financial indicators, and you're asked to sort of talk about the signs that are showing the business performing well and signs that the business is performing poorly. Looking at some examples, so if you go back and look at past papers since 2009, so you go and get access to these off the VCAL website, you can see there was one question in the Unit 4 exam. Remember in 2009 there were 2 exams, one for Unit 3, one for Unit 4. And in Unit 4, question 2.4.2 was a discuss question, and it was about discussing the trend in liquidity. It was pretty small, it was only 3 marks, and the state mean was 53%. Next time there was a discuss question was in 2011, and again that was to look at the trend in liquidity. It was only 3 marks, and you can see this time the mean was much lower. Going sort of looking through the last few years as a trend, you can see there's been a lot of trends in performance. So how did we do in terms of liquidity, efficiency and liquidity, profitability, and there's going to be some indicators that point to good performance, some that point to bad. You can see control accounts have also appeared there, straight line versus reducing balance. What's interesting to note is that particularly in recent times, the average has been pretty bad. The examiner is going to keep assessing this until it gets done to a much better extent, because it's actually a really important skill for you to have in the real world. So make sure you do sort of put some time into your discuss revision. Here's some past examples, so you can see this is 2014, I think. You've been given some figures there and some ratios, and the question you were asked was, using the info from the table and the question from management, discuss the profitability of the business. So on the one hand, it seems to have deteriorated based on these 2 ratios. Can you find another way to look at it as a positive? That's your challenge with that question. This time you're asked to interpret a graph, and then it said identify and analyze the trends that are revealed by the graph. Quite complicated, that question. There's a lot going on in that graph. Another graph, and this time you're given some industry averages as well, and you're asked to evaluate the business's profitability from 2010 to 2012.